Thought of, basically.
Yeah, he freed a lot of Jewish prisoners.
Yeah, but those are also big tzaddikim.
Where's Rashkin?
No, now I'm saying.
Now. From or just?
Yeah. People, not the biggest of tzaddikim. I mean, do they deserve
Thought of, basically.
One guy was in for 20 years.
What was it for?
20 years. For money, no, for fraud. Yeah, like one of these Ponzi schemes.
Why not?
Pyramid schemes.
Okay, 20 years is quite hard for fraud, no? It's not hurting.
No, I know millions.
The other guy got 800.
One guy, huh?
The other guy got out.
I don't know what his victims feel like. The guy got his
Oh,
sentence
one of those
a day later.
you
Yeah,
get guys
how
who
you go?
get 8 people or something, and each of those people get 8 people. And
You've been too much on YouTube, sir.
why?
Ponzi scheme. What have you been
Excuse me,
watching?
my brother-in-law in his time.
Is
The
that
teachers
it?
put on. They watched the whole integration. What you call the whole.
Don't watch that.
Inauguration?
Yeah, they watched it for the lesson today.
Why?
Probably couldn't bother teaching.
Seriously, because, like,
Which teacher?
One of the teachers
Not
next
so
time.
much. No, but I used to spend hours on it.
Did you?
Yeah, for extra.
Oh, yeah, you said you were learning.
Right. Okay.
Hard for that stuff.
It's a hard daf. I printed out charts. Oh, they should be put it on the online. Can you put it online?
Oh,
Should have emailed it to you. I didn't
email
email
me
it to
now.
you.
I can put it on as a PDF. attachment.
I don't have it. I don't have
You can log
internet.
into your email, right? If you know your email account.
It's gonna take ages because
I'll take a picture of it. What's the problem?
Oh,
Scan it
back
in.
to your picture
Well, wait
days.
for Moishe, you were hacking.
Back to your picture days.
I'll scan it in for you. No problem.
good evening. Better start. The halacha is when you shech the korban,
What that was it, sorry?
daf sam with the non-tested base. There's a chart where she and it's not
New one.
Yeah, new chart.
Not using them all, which I have a lot of
And sweets.
Let's get going already. Instead of talking,
wasting our time.
wasting our time.
Mishnah.
The halacha is if you shech the korban, you're supposed to think when you shech the korban, which korban I'm doing. By the way, who can shech the korban?
Anyone.
Yes, Mitzvah Shem this year.
You can't face off any carbon.
Any korban. This year, Mitzvah Shem will all be shecht in korban Pesach.
Amen.
And when you shech the korban Pesach, every korban. When you shecht, you have to shecht lishmoy. So if you're shechting the shlomim, you have to think to yourself, I'm shechting the shlomim. If you're shechting an oila, you have to shecht. What are you doing, Rishi? What are you trying to? If you're shechting an oila, I'm shechting an oila. If I'm shechting a chatos, you should think to yourself, if you're shechting a chatos, say I'm shechting a chatos. What happens if you're shecht a shlomim and you think to yourself, I'm shechting an oila? What's the din?
It's wrong. No, it's piggle.
No, not pigul. Pigul is when you decide to eat it at the wrong time. It's called a psul of shlei lishmoy. The first Mishnah in Zvachim and the first 30 daf of Zvachim discuss this at great length. But the basic halach is like this. If you shecht something for the wrong reason, again, you shecht a shlomim and you decide that it's an oila. An oila you shecht as a shlomim. Back and forth. Then what is the din? The Mishnah says in Zvachim that it is kosher, but you have to bring another one. It's important to get this clear. It's a shame. There's a lot of tummeling, Moshe. It's a lot of very unsettling. Again, if you shecht an oila, think it yourself that you're shechting a shlomim, it is kosher, but you now have to shecht another oila. So it's kosher, it is kosher. The Kohanim can eat it. You put on the Yisbeach, you've done a mitzvah, you have to bring it again. The exception is Chatos and Pesach, and some say even Asham. But we'll stick to the majority is Chatos and Pesach. So if you shech the korban Pesach, think it to yourself that you're shechting a shlomim, what's the din?
Shlomim is okay.
No, if you shech the korban Pesach thinking that you're shechting a shlomim, no good. The korban Pesach is possible. You have to start from
There has to be a specific sheet.
So you start with another one and start with the whole process again. By the way, Suli, Ben, and Yehuda, there's online. I printed out charts today. Tolly's put it on the WhatsApp group. If you can look at it there. So again, we'll just explain the halachas. Yishech the korban shelo lishmoy. It is kosher l'shlei olu lebalim l'shem chayva. They've not been yotza. The exception is Chatos and Pesach. Now, there are 4 main avoiders where if you do it wrong, it is possible. For example, Pigul, as Toli pointed out, other things. What are the 4 main avoiders? Shchita, slaughtering an animal. Catching the blood, which is Kabbalah. Then walking with the blood to the Mizbeach. And finally, Zvika. So if at any one of those 4 stages, you think to yourself a machshavas possible, for example, instead of a Pesach, you think it's a shlomim, you're going to eat it the wrong day, you're going to eat it out of your shalayim, all these things, the korban is no good. So that's what the Mishnah says. A Pesach, says the Mishnah on Tesamot Beis. Ha Pesach sheshachtu yishloi lishmoi, you shechted yishloi lishmoi, v'kibbeh, and you caught it. V'holach, and you walked with the blood. V'zoach, and you sprinkled the blood, yishloi lishmoi. Then the Mishnah is going to say that it is possible. I'll ask you, what would you translate the simple translation of possible of this Mishnah? He shechted and he caught the blood shel and he walked to the shel and he threw it shel. Or would you say it means or? Which one would you say is more likely? Very good. Why would you say that?
Probably not. No, because it's Shelo Lishmoi twice.
No. Pesach shel lishmoi. Give it also shel.
Shelo Lishmoi.
No, I was hoping you say from a piece of
both.
wood.
Not possible to have.
No. Why? You could do it all, but no. You could shech the shel, catch the blood shel, walk shel. The answer is it's not necessary. As we mentioned a minute ago, if you do something wrong in one of the 4 avoiders, then the korban is possible. You don't need to get it wrong 4 times to make the korban possible. It's enough to get it wrong once. So, okay, we'll see. I don't want to more discuss this. Okay. You think 2 things. That means you think to yourself, I'm shechting it for korban Pesach, and then you think, you know what, it's a shlomim. Or you shecht it for korban Pesach, and you do zvika for shlomim. Or first you did shlomim, and then lishmoi. Possible, it is all possible. Kesa lishmoi l'shem Pesach or l'shem shlomim. So you're shechting ever Pesach in the afternoon. You think to yourself, it's a Pesach and it's a shlomim. That's the other way around. I want to summarize this Mishnah. It's such a fundamental Mishnah. If you don't get this clear, it'll be such a tragic loss. A person who shechts korban Pesach, if he shechts it for the wrong intention, what's the wrong intention? He thinks to himself, I'm shechting, let's say, a toida, a chagiga, a shlomim, an oila, the korban is possible. And he has to start from scratch. The Mishnah adds, even if sometimes he got it right, and he sometimes got it wrong, what's the din? Very good, possible. Gets it sometimes right, sometimes wrong, possible. And it makes no difference if he gets it right, then wrong, or wrong, then right. Both times it is possible. And not only, sorry? No, possible. You can't eat the meat, you can't do anything to it. You have to destroy it, you have to burn it, get rid of it completely. You're not even allowed to eat the meat. It's possible, you're not allowed to. You eat the meat to get malchus. And it makes no difference if you did it by the shchita, by the zvika, by the hilacha, by the kabbalah, at any stage, right? So imagine you're the svod, you're shechting the korban Pesach. Somebody says to you, come cook, I will korban Pesach, you shecht it for me, and you shecht it for, you think to yourself that it's a chatos. What have you gone and done? You made the whole korban possible. You've destroyed the entire sheep. It's possible. There's a shadow that you've done an avir, but if you eat it, you've done an avir. If you sacrifice it. Moshe, you're clear. It's not clear. It's a waste of time getting in. I give you a korban Pesach, Pesach afternoon. You're very busy. You're busy thinking about it. And you shecht the korban Pesach thinking. What were you thinking? When you were shechting it? You were thinking that I'm shechting a chatos. It's no good. What happens if you think to yourself, I'm shechting a Pesach, and then you think to yourself, also it's a chatos? What's the din? Also possible. Why you're not with me in the Mishnah?
How can you have to think twice?
Well, come to it. Why not? Sometimes people think too. I'll tell you an interesting shaila. Okay, I'll tell you the interesting shaila. Beautiful shaila. This is a true shaila that happened. You know, there's a mitzvah when you make the matzahs for Leila Seder to think the Shem mitzvah's matzah. If you don't, is the matzah kosher for Leila Seder? No. If you bake the matzahs for Leila Seder, you don't think it's the Shem mitzvah, then what's the din? What's the din? You can't use it for Seder night. Do you know that? When you make the famous story we saw Salanta, that's actually it's different. So there's Yisroel Blaza, it's a different. So I say Yisroel Blaza story quicker. What happened was that he was telling everybody, say the Shem mitzvah's matzah, Shem mitzvah's matzah. And there was a lot of boys there, young bochim. So one of them said to his friend Yitzchak, what's the time? So Yisroel Blaza was in his 90s. Took out his watch and he said it's 2:30. And the boy went purple. Oh, I won't call you Yitzchak. It was the God of Ador. He was the Rav of Petterberger and all the rest. I was speaking to my friend. She said, "What's wrong? My name is Yitzchak. You think I get upset when people call me by my first name? Nothing wrong calling me Yitzchak." And he got such a chizuk. They all said to him, they said, "What can we do for you?" He said, "Shout the Shem Mitzvahs Matzah." And they all shout Shem Mitzvahs Matzah. Now this is the true shaila. It was a Yidin B'nei Brak. They were baking matzah, Pesach Shem Mitzvahs Matzah. And somebody was kneading the dough. He said, "The Shem Mitzvahs Matzah, and also with the money, I'm doing it the shame to pay off my tax bill." And the people there got so angry with him. It's a Mishnah and Pesachim. Lishmoy v'shlilishmoy by Korban Pesach. What's the din? Posel. And they wanted to chuck out his batch of matzahs. They were very upset with him.
But it was not the Pesach.
The whole
it's
batch.
not.
Again, I just said, that's why I started off with you. I said, when you bake your matzahs and you don't say the Shemitah's matzah, your matzah's kosher? No. This person, did he do the Shemitah's matzah?
No. Only just
He
chuck
did
that
half.
matzah.
Oh, he did twice. He did both.
So what would you say?
Just chuck that
So
one.
the whole-
I was
Why
hoping-
don't you just say
the
no,
whole
but Pesach
kosher.
should be not good.
What?
That means it will pass. They'll pass all the whole. They'll pass everything in the oven then.
Why not? No, it's just on this mat when he was kneading this matzah.
Maybe he was thinking about it the whole time while he was bleeding.
Ask him.
So that means how do you do it?
Well, I was
How do you-
hoping some of you would argue straight away when they heard the question. In your gut, in your gut,
And
you
that's
should tell.
still kosher.
Why?
It's not chametz.
Why? Yeah, you can't use the Seder night.
It's not comprehensive.
So better than that. I tell
Come
you
on,
two
I'm
different
dying
answers.
of-
One, the Brisker Rov's test, and it's not really the Brisker. Well, there's two very, very quickly. We'll get to the answer time. One answer is like this: that when you say two contradictory thoughts, we have a problem. But over here, it's not two contradictory thoughts. It's very important. They're complementary. I wanted a Shemitah's matzah, and I want the money to be able to pay off my tax bill. By Korban, if you're shechting it for Pesach, it's not an oilo. If you're shechting it for oilo, it's not Pesach. There's a Brisker Rov that holds the din of Shlili Shmo only works by Pesach. It doesn't work by matzah. Okay, that's more complicated. It's very interesting shayla. That's what I wanted to pique the curiosity of the thing. But let's get. What did we learn from our Mishnah? We learned from our Mishnah: if you shechte Korban Pesach with the wrong intention, possible. Even if what? Even if you get it wrong half of the time, the first half, the second half is completely possible. But you have Papa. But Papa asks a shayla. It's a very fundamental shayla. The halacha is we have a machlekes Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi called Tfois Lashon Rishon, Tfois Lashon Achron. Do any of you know what that means?
Yeah, if you said two things.
Very good. Let's imagine I've got three animals: animal A, animal B, animal C. Animal A is an oila. Animal B is a shlomim. Animal C is chulin. And I say that this animal should be tomorrow, should be in the place of the oila and the shlomim. What's the din? I'm sorry, leaving my hat if you want to put third one. What's the din? Again, I've got two or three animals: oila, shlomim, and chulin. That means it's nothing yet. And I take the third animal and I say it's tmuras oila. It's instead of an oila, it's instead of a shlomim. What's the din? What's the din?
You're trying to move the status from the other two animals.
That's right.
to it.
So you said two different
But
things.
they can't live side. They can't live
Oh.
side by side in the same animal.
Oh, so what's the din? That's exactly the question. What is the din?
It doesn't
No,
work,
it's
so it's
nothing.
fine. It's a chulin.
No, nothing. No,
It's a chulin.
We're talking
No,
about it
no.
less than a week ago. It's a
No,
machlekes
no.
tanoim. Machlekes tanoim. Shittas Rameya is tfois loshen rishon. Whenever you have two statements which are contradictory, we only take your first statement to be true.
Why not the second one?
Because the second one
Change
is
your mind.
finished. It's not.
Because you said the first one you said it first. It should be an oila. So it's an oila. Now you say it should be a shlamim. It can't be an oila and a shlamim. So we take the first statement to be true. Rabbi, that shittas Rameya, write it down somewhere to remember it on your hands. Shittas Rabbi Yossi is, what's shittas Rabbi Yossi? We take both into consideration. Let's get it very clear. According to Rameya, we say tvois lashon rishon. According to Rabbi Yossi, we say both. Now this is the shikul hachashon. The Mishnah says that if you do two thoughts, kosher or possible, what did the Mishnah say? Very good. I want everybody to be aware of that, otherwise it's waste time carrying on. If the Mishnah says, Moishi, if the Mishnah says, if you think two thoughts, so Shechti you can't Pesach, you think two thoughts, what's the din? Kosher or possible? Possible, we only said it a dozen times. Possible, is that clear? Yishai, you
I didn't get it wrong.
again,
I thought about it.
Again, if you shechte Korban Pesach l'shem Korban Pesach and l'shem Shlomim, or Korban Pesach l'shem Pesach and Oila and Pesach, what's the din? Possible. The question the Gemara. Oh, what's about first Lashon Rishon? No, but Meir said first Lashon Rishon. Or maybe The Mishnah was talking about a case where you did the shechita with one thought and you did the Kabbalah Saddam with a different thought. So therefore, it's not a matter of Tfos Lashon Rishon or Tfos Lashon Shneim. Why? Because it's two separate thoughts. There's some more charts here, Levi, if you want. Again, let's see the Gemara. Is the Mishnah talking about two thoughts in one avodah or two thoughts in two separate avodas? The Mishnah is talking about one avodah. If the Mishnah was talking about one single thought, then it's a right that our Mishnah is going like who? Very good. Again, let's see if anybody else could say this. If the Mishnah is talking about one single action, and you had two separate thoughts, that means Korban Pesach and Oila, and the Mishnah tells you it is possible, who's the Mishnah going like? Rabbi Yossi. Why Rabbi Yossi? Because according to Rameh, that Tfos Lashon Rishon, it should be kosher. Why should it be kosher? Because you said the Shem Korban Pesach and then the Shem Oila. And it is indeed meant to be a Korban Pesach. So according to Rameh, that Tfos Lashon Rishon, the Mishnah wouldn't say possible. So if the Mishnah is talking about doing one action with two thoughts, and the Mishnah nevertheless says it is possible, who's the Mishnah going like? Rabbi Yossi. Again, top of Samachal Aleph. Maybe this is about two separate avodas. Even according to Amir that says that you get the first lashon, that is referring to one avodah. But why two avodas still creates possible? Is everybody clear over here? Again, I'll say it once more. You take a Korban Pesach. There are four main avodas. What are the four main avodas very quickly? Shechita, catching the dam, walking with the blood, sprinkling the blood. Any one of these four, you get it wrong, the entire korban is possible. Again, any one of these four, you get it wrong, the whole korban is a waste of time. It's possible. Clear? So let's say you did everything right. When you came to sprinkle it, you thought, I'll do it for Shlomim. The whole thing's no good. No, it's not. More to discuss later. It's not. Again, it has to be for Pesach. The Gemara Mishnah tells us that if you think the wrong thought, it is possible. Not only if you think the wrong thought, it is possible. Even if you think two contradictory thoughts, one of them correct and one of them incorrect, your korban is possible. Says Rav Papa, wait a second. We know the famous Rameh that says Tfos Lashon Rishon. According to Meir Tfos Lashon Rishon, why in the world should it be possible? Says the Gemara, depends what the case of our Mishnah is. If the case of our Mishnah, if you look at the first chart, look at it. It's got Ba'avoda Achas. So Rabbi Yossi says, after God with its verse, we reckon both kavanas it's possible. Or shte avodas, within a single avodah, there was one kavana of Shlei Lishma. So therefore, Rabbi would say that we only say Tfos Lashon Rishon. So that is the Gemara's question. Oh, that is the Gemara's question. If you look at the side, they've got it very clearly stated. Right? Says the Gemara like this. Ahai. Which case was Rav Papa discussing? Now, Mishnah was quite a number of cases. We were talking about the very first case of Shlei Lishmoi. Obviously, we're not talking about a case where he started off with a wrong thought and then continued with a correct thought. Why not? Why can't we talk about such a case? Why can't we talk about a case where he started off with the wrong thought and then concluded with the right thought? Very good. It wouldn't be machlik Sameir Rabbi Yossi. Because according to Amir, we would say Tfos Lashon Rishon, and what was his first thought? A bad one. And according to Rabbi Yossi, we take both thoughts. According to Rabbi Yossi, again, it would be no good because we've got both thoughts and one of them is incorrect. So which case are we discussing? We're discussing a case where the first thought was correct, the second thought was incorrect. Then, according to Amir, what should the problem be? Tfos Lashon Rishon. According to Rabbi Yossi, we should say both. Toshema. HaPesach she'shochto shlei lishmoi v'kibel volach v'zorak shlei lishmoi. Hey Chitomi, what's the case of our Mishnah? That we're talking about that he did all of them incorrectly. That means all four he did with the wrong intention. Why did he have to do all four of them incorrectly? Once did the first one, it's already possible. אלא לאו אחי, תוני הפסח שוחטו של שמוי, אינמי שוחטו לשמוי וכמו מלאך זרק של שמוי, אינמי שוחטו וכמו מלאך לשמוי וזרק של לשמוי, תב לו שתי אבוידוס. The Gemara concludes, and the Gemara keeps this to the maskana always, so we'll stick to this. When the Mishnah said that if a person shechts, catches the blood, walks with the blood, and sprinkles the blood shaloi lishmoi, it does not mean that he did all 4 shaloi lishmoi. Why? Why does it not mean that he did all 4 shaloi lishmoi? Because even one of them will make it possible. Rather, what does it mean? That he did one of the 4 shaloi lishmoi. So we're talking about a person like this. He walked with the blood, he shechted it, l'shem Pesach. He caught the blood, l'shem Pesach. He walked with the blood, l'shem Pesach. And then when he came to the sprinkling, he did shaloi lishmoi. So that part of the Mishnah is clearly talking about how many avodas? 2 separate avodas. That one avodah is doing lishmoi, and one avodah is doing shaloi lishmoi. So therefore it says, Ema Seifa, Shaloi Lishmoi v'Shaloi Lishmoi Echidam. Inem v'shtei avodos, if when the Mishnah then carries on and says, the Mishnah says like this, if he does any one of the avodos Shaloi Lishmoi, or if he does it Lishmoi v'Shaloi Lishmoi. Now what's the Mishnah mean in the end of the Mishnah when it says Lishmoi v'Shaloi Lishmoi? What does the Mishnah mean? It must mean in the same avodah. Because if it means in 2 separate avodas, then what's the Mishnah added? That is the Reisha. Let's say it again. It's a very intricate, but it's if you're happy, it's very geschmack. The Mishnah says like this: if you do one of the avodah shaloi lishmoi, or if you do it lishmoi v'shaloi lishmoi, it is possible. When we say that you do one of the 4 avodah shaloi lishmoi, as we proved already, we're not discussing that you did all 4 shaloi lishmoi, because that the Mishnah will need to tell us. Rather, it's talking about where you did some lishmoi and some shaloi lishmoi. So then, when the Mishnah then continues, oh, you did it lishmoi v'shaloi lishmoi, what does the Mishnah mean? That you did one avodah shmoi, one avodah shaloi lishmoi. That's exactly what we talk about in the Reisha. It must be that Mishnah says like this: if you do any one of the 4 avodas shaloi lishmoi, meaning you did 3 lishmoi and 1 shaloi lishmoi, or you did it lishmoi v'shaloi lishmoi, meaning within the very same avodah, within the very same act, you did lishmoi v'shaloi lishmoi, then Rabbi Yosi, that even though you did it lishmoi and shaloi lishmoi, you did it, it's no good. Why is it no good? Not like Rameh that says first lashon rishon. It says, well, look, lo b'shtei avodos, v'veishet dekoi b'shchita v'kol chashav b'shchita, inami yikoi b'zvika v'kol chashav b'zvika, sefer deshkoi b'shchita v'kol chashav b'zvika, domar yishechet es ha-pesach lishmoi, lizvik domar shaloi lishmoi. The Gemara says there's actually a 3rd case. Till now, we've always explained you've got 2 separate cases. You've got one case where you shecht it lishmoi, and then you do the zvika shaloi lishmoi. You do 2 separate avodas, one lishmoi and one shaloi lishmoi. Or you do the one avodah, half lishmoi, half shaloi lishmoi. Says the Gemara, there's a 3rd option. What's the 3rd option? You shecht it lishmoi with intention that when you do the zrika, you'll do it shaloi lishmoi. You shecht it lishmoi, l'shem Pesach, with intention that when I do the zrika, it will be shaloi lishmoi. And that is the case which the Mishnah is referring to in the Sefer. I want to summarize again. Our Mishnah tells us that if a person shechts a korban Pesach with the wrong intention, what's the din? Possible. What happens if you do it with the right intention and the wrong intention? Possible. Which way around? Make any difference which way around you do it? No. Whichever way around. If you do, we'll see. Pashas any way around. First or second thought, always no good. Says Rav Papa, I have a different machlikas tadom, whether we go through Tzuris Lashon Rishon and Tzuris Lashon Achron. I want to understand, does our Mishnah reconcile itself also with Rameh or not? That means with Rabbi Yosi, there's no problem. Why? Because since according to Rabbi Yosi that you take everything into consideration, so it makes no difference what you thought first or second. At the end of the day, it's going to be possible. But according to our Meir that says first Lashon Rishon, so what's our Mishnah saying? The only way to reconcile our Mishnah is by saying that our Mishnah is talking about a case we did 2 separate avodas. You did the Shechita Lishmoi and the Zrika Shaloi Lishmoi alternatively or back and forth. Says the Gemara, that is that true? Can that fit into our Mishnah? The Gemara says it can't, because the beginning of our Mishnah was about two separate avodas. So in the Seif of the Mishnah adds, and also I'll tell you another chiddush of lishmoi v'sheloi lishmoi. The Mishnah must be adding another chiddush. What's the other chiddush Mishnah's adding? When you do it b'avodah achas, says the Gemara, no. It's adding a situation where you do it lishmoi and sheloi lishmoi by a separate avodah, but not that you did another avodah sheloi lishmoi. But during the shechita, during the first avodah, you think to yourself, I'll do that next avodah sheloi lishmoi. The Gemara continues from our Mishnah. The Mishnah says that it makes no difference which way round you did it, whether you did the correct thought first or the incorrect thought first. Either way, it is possible. Now, which one's a bigger chiddush? Would you tell me?
That's right.
Very good. He said it straight away, but I was good. What's a bigger chiddush? If I say to you that it makes no difference if you get the correct thought first or the incorrect thought first. Either way, if you have two thoughts, one correct, one incorrect, it is possible. And it makes no difference which one you had first. Which one is a bigger chiddush? Very good. When you had the correct one first, because you had the correct one first. I did it right. And then by mistake in the middle, I suddenly thought to myself the wrong thing. You already had, and what does the Mishnah say? Now, what does the Mishnah say? Look at the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, the Mishnah says both. Why is it necessary to have both? The Mishnah should have just told me one, i.e., that I had the correct thought first and then the incorrect thought. And then I could learn out when I had the incorrect thought first. You hear the question? No? If the Mishnah would have told me that if you have the correct thought first and the incorrect thought second, it is no good, you know the other way around. That's why the Mishnah needs to tell me. Elamai, it must be that the Mishnah is talking about two different kinds of cases, and that's why the Mishnah has to tell you both cases. What could they be two different kinds of cases? One is talking about two separate avodas, and one is talking about within the same avodah. Is it right that Mishnah is not like a Rameir? Because according to Rameir, that when you say that first Lashon Mishnah, within the same avodah, it should be okay. Let's see what inside Toshima. No, because that won't be a chiddush. Because if the Mishnah, it's not. Because at the end of the day, if the Mishnah is telling us an extra case, and that case is spare, so the Mishnah is obviously telling you a case where it's in one avodah. And that, what's the chiddush in that one particular case of one avodah? It has to be where you had the correct thought first and the correct thought second. Otherwise, what's the chiddush in the what Levi was asking and was answering? Okay. The only chiddush is only if the incorrect thought was second, and nevertheless we still say it's possible. If you think about it, I know it's getting more complicated. If you get it right and then wrong, it's possible. Do you need to tell me the other way around? It says, well, look, you're right. The Mishnah did not need to teach for this halacha. This Mishnah is completely not necessary. Why is it not necessary? Because if I know that lishmoi but lishmoi is no good, sometimes the Mishnah will tell us just to be uniform. The Mishnah says like this: whether you had the incorrect thought first or the incorrect thought second, it is possible. They say, what are you talking about? If the incorrect thought was first, it was second, of course, and that's no good if it's first. No, the Mishnah likes to tell us all the cases just to make sure that you have a clear picture. But indeed, it's not necessary. Toshaba. The halacha is that the Korban Pesach is unique. All korbanos, when you shech them, you have to think. What do you have to think? Oh, Kayani. What do you have to think when you shech Korban Pesach? Very good. There are 6 thoughts you have to have when you shech the korban. Let's say shechting a shlomim. That means, I'm not going to go through all 6 because I want to just get the ones which are negiyah to our sukkah. It's a Mishnah in Zvachim. But the most important ones which are negiyah to our sukkah is that I'm going to eat it in the right time. I'm going to sacrifice it in the right time for the correct owners and also for the correct korban. So if I shech the shlomim thinking it's an oila, no good. You have to start again. Right? Korban Pesach has a couple extra. Does anybody know what's extra about the Korban Pesach? No. That when you shecht it, it has to be limnuyin. There are people that counted themselves. For example, shlomim, I can shecht the Korban shlomim and afterwards invite you all to eat my shlomim. Korban Pesach doesn't work like that. Korban Pesach, we have to get together, allocate it to all the people together. So when I shecht it, let's say, for example, there's group A and you're group B. And group B come along and say to me, here's the Korban Pesach, will you shecht it first? And I shecht it thinking it's for group A, possible. Or if I shecht it, for example, for Avelim, if I shecht it for people who haven't done Bismillah, how can you have a Fum Yid who hasn't done Bismillah? Medical, very good. Rashi says it. His brothers all died from Bismillah, so he didn't do a Bismillah. Is he allowed to eat Korban Pesach? No, he's not allowed to eat Korban Pesach. Even though he's done nothing wrong, he's not allowed to do Bismillah. What? He's not done anything wrong at all, but he can't eat Korban Pesach. Or Tmeim. So that's the next mission. Let's see the mission inside. Toshaba. The more inside. Toshaba. Shochtu shloilo ichlo. You shecht it for the wrong people. Shloilo imnuyov lavein. And it's meyin. Possible. Hocha pshita b'avodah achas. There clearly we're talking about one avodah. It says shochtu. Or the sefer b'avodah achas. Since the next mission is to avodah achas, v'shlam b'avodah achas. It says well mid-area. Why would you say such a thing? How can you compare Hakadis of Hakadis and sefer b'avodah achas? The fact that the Mishnah says later a similar kind of scenario and talks about one avodah does not reflect on our Mishnah that is talking about one avodah. Toshema. We're going to go into this more and more and good to get it clear. Regarding the wrong machshava, let's say you shecht for Korban Pesach and also for Shlomim. What's the din? Possible. Very good. At least somebody's awake. If you shecht the Korban Pesach for Pesach and for Shlomim, what's the din? Possible. We said it 100 times today. What happens if you shecht the Korban Pesach for the wrong group? Group A, you group B gave me the Korban Pesach. I shecht for A. Possible. Why would I shecht it for group B and for group A? What would you say? Oh, that's what I would have said. It's kosher. The Gemara later discuss it. I would have said like you. Why would I say like you? Just like if I said this for Pesach and for Shlomim, you told me it's possible, and you told me if I do this for the wrong. Let me just finish. No.
It could be one group.
No. I don't want you to compare it to that. It's not like the matter.
They could all eat together.
No, the Gemara later brings Pesukim. I don't want to go into. Let's wait for the Gemara to give its own reasoning. The Gemara not today. Again. If I shecht the Korban Pesach for Pesach and for Shlomim, possible. If I shecht the Korban Pesach for the wrong group, it's going to be A, or for Avelim, possible. If I shecht it for two groups, or for people who are Tomei and Toy, or for people that were Avelim and not Avelim, it is kosher. It's a unique halach. The Gemara discussed it at great length. Let's not jump the gun. Toshema. So the Gemara says like this: Lo ichla v'shloi lo ichla. We're 6 lines from the bottom. For those who get it, those get it. Kosher. Echidam. There's another very important distinction. For again, the Gemara will explain it at much greater length later. We said earlier that if you shecht Korban Pesach for the wrong reason, or you catch the blood for the wrong reason, or you walk for the wrong reason, or you do Zvika for the wrong reason, what's it in? Possible. Regarding not the wrong group, or not eaters, or not the allocated people and all the rest, it is only a psul at the time of shechita. So if I shecht it for group B, which they gave it to me, group B gave me the Korban Pesach, I shecht it for group B, I catch the blood for group B. But when I do zvika, I do it for group A, what's the din? Kosher. Is that clear?
Practically, the Meister kind of was standing by the Balim, gave it over.
No, that's not true.
You can't say it's a Balim.
No, you can't say Babat. For example, somebody was asking this way, he doesn't understand. At the end of the day, it's about Erev Pesach, he shechted 100,000 sheep at the very least, or a few 100,000 sheep. The answer is, if the Kohen thinks nothing, it's fine, because we understand that it's going to be for the right thing. It's only if he thinks the wrong thought. Okay, the point is like this. So what says, what's going on? Why is it that it's kosher? Okay, it doesn't help. We're talking about 2 separate avodas. And the reason is because you do by Shas Zvika to Machshav Seichel Zvika, or by if it's all within the same avodah, you go b'shchita to b'hani b'machshav Seichel. We're there if you shecht it for the wrong people. Possible, but kaimon on mixas Seichel no possible. The halach is it's not true that if you shecht it for Eichlin and Shaloi Eichlin, what's the din? Kosher. Very good. Top of Samachom Beis. And a lab avodah achas. We talk about when avodah b'shas shchita. With the sefer b'avodah achas, v'shenam b'avodah achas. Since that sefer was obviously talked about, we shechted it for some people that can eat it, and some people that can't eat it. And since we're talking about such a case, therefore the ratios also. It says no comparison. No kedisa. Sefer b'avodah achas, v'shenam b'avodah achas v'shenam b'avodah. Which means the Gemara Lemaisa does not conclude. So let's go very, very briefly what we've learned so far. You shech the Korban Pesach for the wrong reason, i.e. for Shlomim or for Oila, your Korban Pesach is possible. It makes no difference if you got the right reason, then the wrong reason, or the wrong reason, then the right reason, it is possible. And it makes no difference if you shechted it, caught the blood, sprinkled the blood, walked the blood, or anything you did with the wrong reason, it is always possible. We have Machliks of Men Rabbi where we say Tfus Lashon Rishon or Tfus Lashon Shneim. What's a Meir hold? Tfus Lashon Rishon. Meir holds Tfus Lashon Rishon. Rabbi Yossi says we take everything into consideration. By the way, for the record, it's very important to be aware. So according to Rameir and Rabbi Yossi, if you've got 3 sheep, one's an Oila, one's a Shlomim, and you take a third sheep and you should say this third sheep should be instead of the in the Oila and in the Shlomim. So according to Rameir, what happens with sheep? This is very simple. You've got 3 sheep, one's an Oila, one's a Shlomim, and you take a third sheep and you say it should be instead of the Oila, it should be instead of the Shlomim. According to Rameir, that's first Lashon Rishon, what happens? Oila. According to Rabbi Yossi, what are you going to do?
Leave it in a room and let it out.
No, close but wrong. You wait for it to get a mum, then you sell it. With the money, you buy an Oila and a Shlomim. Buy both. I just said to you, Rabbi Yossi said you both. That's a different story. Again, so now the Gemara says, what's our Mishnah talk about? Meaning, is our Mishnah fit in our mirror? The Gemara says we've got no proof. The fact that Latin Mishnah is going to talk about Achas is no reflection of our Mishnah. Another new complicated shah. Let's get it very clear. Erev Pesach, if you shech the Korban Pesach for a Shlomim, what have you done? Parcel. And you have to get a new Korban Pesach. If you shech that, this might not know. If you shech the Korban Pesach today, what's the din? If let's say I take this sheep, this is a sheep. You see the sheep? I actually thought to buy myself a sheep. Really. You should really buy a sheep and bring one in. Wait a second. Imagine this is a sheep. Do you like the sheep? Beautiful. I should designate it for Korban Pesach. Imagine Mashiach was already here. So you need to get ready. So I designate, it's only 2 months till Pesach. So I designated it for Korban Pesach. And then I decide I'm not waiting all the way to Pesach. I shecht it tomorrow. What's the din? You're very close. Wait a second. I'll tell you what the Gemara says. Possible. If I designate it as a Korban Pesach, and then I shecht it as a Shlomim, that means I did 2 things wrong. I designated it as Korban Pesach. I shecht it on the wrong day for the sake of a Shlomim. What's the din? Kosher. It's an unbelievable halacha.
When can he tell the wrong day?
Is there any designation?
Yes, of course. You have to designate it.
What's kosher?
We'll come out another time.
Wait, 2 days before then.
The time was 4 days before. Very good. Again, I take a sheep, I designated the Shem Korban Pesach, and I don't have patience with Korban Pesach. I can't wait so long. I shecht it a month before Pesach. If I shecht it for Pesach, it is possible. If I shecht it for Shlomim, it is kosher. Meaning, the exact opposite of what would happen on Erev Pesach happens the rest of the year. The exact opposite. On Erev Pesach, we shecht it for Shlomim, what's the din? Possible. Shecht Korban Pesach, kosher. The rest of the year, you shecht the Shem Pesach, possible. You shecht the Shem Shlomim, kosher. So the exact opposite of what happens on Erev Pesach happens the rest of the year. I leave that out. Imagine you're told. Even Tommy is talking to. Let's get it. So what's this? What happens if you shecht it for Shlomim and for Pesach? Now, the Shlomim over here was good because it's the wrong day. The Pesach is no good. Do we say, just like when we do it on Erev Pesach, and you did it for the wrong thought and the right thought, it's no good, so too, when you do it the rest of the year, and you do it for Pesach and Shlomim, it should also be no good. What's the right thought during the rest of the year? Which one is the right thought during the rest of the year? Shlomim. So over here, did Shlomim and Pesach, says the Gemara. Mi osi shlei lishvoi makvim de lishvoi umachshavei. Do we say that it's kosher or not? Also, Avdi mi Omar mit lishvat kvet Rabbi Yomi. I asked Rabbi Yomi. I said this. Just like making it called Pesach or Pesach will make it kosher, and Shlomim the rest of the year. He says the logic is the same. Just like on Erev Pesach, if you said it's Shlomim and Pesach, what's the din? It's possible. Oh, I said it's Pesach, so let it be kosher. I said it's Pesach, let it be kosher. I said it doesn't help you. Why does it not help you? Because then you said the wrong thought. The fact that you also said the right thought doesn't help you. Same too. Similarly, the rest of the year, if you said Shlomim and Pesach, the fact that you said Shlomim is very good, but you said Pesach. and therefore it is no good. It means the logic. Let's go through the logic again. Just like on Erev Pesach, getting the right thought does not help you undo the damage of the wrong thought. So to the rest of the year, the right thought. What's the right thought, Moshe, the rest of the year? Shlomim doesn't help undo the terrible damage that you did with the wrong thought, which was, what was the wrong thought in the rest of the year? Pesach. Imagine you shechting on Pesach, and you're shechting it for the sake of Pesach, and it's the wrong thought. Why is it the wrong thought? Because it's the wrong day of the year. So again, just like on the Pesach, the damage you did with the wrong thought cannot be undone with the right thought, so to the rest of the year can't be undone with the right thought. So he said to me, I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you. You can't compare. The terrible damage of the wrong thought is so damaging that it actually affects any single korban. If you shech during the rest of the year, shlomim for the sake of oila, what's the din? Does anybody remember?
The rest of them.
Yeah, shlomim for the sake of an oila, what's the din?
No.
It is kosher, but you have to start, but you have to, no, it's kosher. You can eat it, but you have to do another one. If you shech the chatos shlei lishmoy the rest of the year, it's possible. Only two korbanos are possible shlei lishmoy, Pesach and chatos. Says the Gemara that shlei lishmoy, we see how damaging it is. Why? How is it damaging? Every single korban, you've not been yotzi de chavos, so you have to start from scratch. Plus Pesach and chatos is completely possible. How damaging is the thought of lishmoy? Not so damaging. The thought of lishmoy is not so damaging. When is lishmoy possible? Only by Pesach and only on the wrong day of the year. So the damage of lishmoy is a much less frequent, a much less powerful damage than the thought of shloi lishmoy. So therefore, even though it is true that if you think shloi lishmoy ne'er Pesach, you can't undo the damage by saying lishmoy, but the rest of the year, if you do it lishmoy l'shem Pesach, which is a rare problem, it only exists by Pesach because all other korbanos, we want you to do it lishmoy, oila lishmoy, shlomim lishmoy. It's only by Pesach on the wrong date we don't want you to do it lishmoy. So the damage of shloi lishmoy can undo it. Is that clear? Crystal clear or like mud?
Pesachim, you can't drink right now. You can't drink at night.
You can't become Pesach today, but if you bring in the Shem Shlomim, it's okay. So this person brought the Shem Shlomim and the Shem Pesach. Says the Gemara, we should say it's the same as Erev Pesach, the Shem Pesach, the Shem Shlomim, which is no good. Says, well, you can't compare. Erev Pesach, what was the mistaken thought? Shloi lishmoy. A Shloi lishmoy thought is a very common and very damaging occurrence because all the year around, it makes you have to bring your korban again, it makes it possible, etc., etc. Lishmoy is not such a damaging occurrence because when does lishmoy make it possible? Only by korban Pesach, the wrong day of the year. Yeah, but that is when you do it shloi lishmoy, that makes it possible. But when do we see that lishmoy makes it possible? That is very rare. That's only by Pesach. My have a law. What's it in? Why? Rabbi comes up with another piece of logic. Why? The normal din of common Pesach, when you designate, if I designate this sheep as a common Pesach, and then I shecht it today as a shlomim, kosher or posel? Kosher, very good. Now, what was the designation of this sheep? Pesach. Says Rava, the designation of making it as a Shem Pesach means that automatically speaking, we consider it as if you shechted the Shem Pesach and the Shem Shlomim. And nevertheless, it's still kosher.
How's that possible?
Because I made it a common Pesach. I said, this sheep should be called common Pesach. And then I shechted the rest of the year for a Shlomim. So we see that the power of getting it the Shem Shlomim has the ability to undo it from the Shem Pesach. Again, let's see Rava inside. My Havalo again. Why? The general allocation of this korban is lishmoy koi. Says Rava, just like if I would say nothing about Pesach and I would shecht it just for Shlomim, what's the din? It's kosher. So too, if I shechted the Shem Pesach and the Shem Shlomim, it's kosher. Says, Rabbi, how can I prove it? I'll prove it to you like this. A korban Pesach during the rest of the year, what was it really designated for? If you want to add any thoughts, what would it be considered? No. The rest of the you make this a common Pesach, and you shecht it without any thought. No, it's not. It's a common Pesach because then that's been designated. But when you make it the Shem Shlomim, it is kosher. Says Rav, if that's the case, it is true as well by when you designate the Shem Pesach and the Shem Shlomim. Just like your natural thought of Pesach is there, and when you shech the Shem Shlomim, it is kosher. So too, when you actually physically say Pesach and Shlomim, it is kosher. How can you compare a case where a person speaks out the wrong intention to a case where a person doesn't speak it out? If you think about it, for those who eat it, it's kosher. But the Bible says that's not true. Your logic is incorrect. Why is your logic incorrect? When you shech the Korban Pesach without any thought, who is it for? The people who are going to eat it, the people who are allocated to it. When you shecht it for the wrong people, what's the din? It's possible. If you shecht it for the people and for the wrong people, what's the din? Kosher. Says I don't understand. Your logic is that whenever you have something which is generally allocated, stomach for a certain thing, so then the two thoughts are already there in place. Actually, that's what you said. When you shecht Pesach, the rest of the day you got Pesach and Shlomim. If that's the case, whenever you shechted Shlei Loichlov, you've always got Oichlov and Shlei Loichlov together. And Afal Pikain, we know it's not true because when you shechted Shlei Loichlov, it is possible. And when you shechted Loichlov, Shlei Loichlov, it's kosher. Is a way that there's a difference between stoma and saying. When it's stoma, then it's not such a strong thought. The other thought can undo it. So Rav said to him, no, that's not true. You can't compare. When lishmoy is a very, very strong lishmoy, because you don't change. Once you designate a korban as a korban Pesach, the essence of the sheep is a korban Pesach. And therefore it never becomes out of korban Pesach forever. Elo, that you're allowed to change designated eaters on and on and on. For example, let's say we're a week before Pesach. I say to Moshe and Tali, come with me, I need to go on Pesach. And you say, fine. And then 2 days later, Moshe gets invited by his brother. So he says, no, I don't want to eat with you. And then Tali says, I got invited by my cousin. And then what happens is, again, so you can change your mind. Meaning, again, let's get it very clear. You can't compare Oichlov, which can be changed regularly, to the Shemoy, which can't. And therefore, Rava sticks to his guns like this. Let's get very clear. If you shech the Korban Pesach during the rest of the year, L'Shem Shlomim, it is kosher. L'Shem Pesach, it is possible. L'Shem Pesach, but L'Shem Shlomim, but the Bible says it's possible. The proof being, just like the Oichlov Shloi Loichlov is kosher, but when you shechted just Shloi Loichlov, it's no good, because we see a designated thought is worse. A thought which is thought is worse than a designated thought. Rabbi says no. Just like we see that when you shech the Korban Pesach during all year round, the Shem Shlomim mitzvahs kosher, even though inherently within the animal there's a machshava of Pesach, because you're makdish the Shem Pesach, therefore Afghan is kosher. Who adin if you do it l'shmoi v'shaloi l'shmoi, and therefore according to Rav, if you shech Korban Pesach l'shmoi v'shaloi l'shmoi to the rest of the year, it is kosher. I want to do a little bit more because the next more is also not so easy. What do you think? Do you think that's not worth it? Okay. So we might end up falling a tiny bit behind because we've got quite a hard daf coming up. Okay, right, very good. Okay, if you've got the ability, I would take a chart and go through it. It's very, very well written. I didn't print it out because I thought it was very worthwhile. That's why I spent time getting it. What? No, I bought my car again. I had a lot of people online today, but not. Thank you for the jellies.